Close your eyes and try to imagine a time, before the stars were scattered like salt across the velvet dark, before the sun carved its golden path through the sky, and before the earth had even thought to dream of mountains or deep, green valleys. In the beginning there was only Ginnungagap, the yawning void. It was a silence so profound it would make your ears ring, a vast, hollow emptiness that stretched into infinity, where there was no north, no south, no up, and no down. But even in this nothingness there were whispers of what was to come. To the far north lay Niflheim, a realm of mist and biting, eternal cold, where 11 rivers, the Elivagar, flowed from a bubbling spring, their waters turning to jagged obsidian ice as they met the vacuum of the void. And to the far south lay Muspelheim, a land of dancing, furious embers and glowing, molten light, where the air shimmered with a heat so intense it could turn bone to ash in a heartbeat. Imagine the sensation of that divide. To your left, a wind so cold it smells of ancient snow and frozen iron, a chill that settles deep into your marrow and turns your breath into a ghost. To your right, the heavy, shimmering scent of ozone and sulphur, the radiant warmth of a primordial hearth that prickles your skin and hums in your ears. For eons, these two extremes crept toward each other across the great void, the frost reaching out with skeletal fingers, and the heat blowing like a soft, invisible sigh. And then, in the very centre of the silence, they met. Where the sparks of Muspelheim fell upon the rime ice of Niflheim, the air began to thicken. Can you hear it? The slow, rhythmic drip of melting ice. Drip, drip. It is the sound of the universe waking up. The heat softened the frozen rivers, turning the black ice into a life-giving mist, and from that swirling, lukewarm vapour a shape began to take form. This was Ymir, the first of the Etins, the father of the frost giants. He was not a man, nor was he a god. He was the raw, chaotic spirit of the earth itself, a being of colossal scale whose limbs were as thick as glaciers and whose skin was as rough as the bark of an ancient oak. Imagine Ymir lying in the misty quiet of the void. He is asleep, his breathing a slow, thunderous rumble that echoes off the walls of nothingness. As he sleeps, he sweats from the warmth of the southern fires, and from the moisture of his body, more life begins to stir. Under his left arm a man and a woman grow from the warmth of his skin, and from his feet a 6-headed son is born. These are the first frost giants, beings born of sweat and ice, their hair white as a blizzard and their eyes the colour of a frozen lake. They move through the mist with heavy, silent steps, their voices like the groaning of ice sheets shifting in the dark. But Ymir was not alone in the melting frost. As the ice continued to thaw, another shape emerged, Odumla, the great cow. She was the nourishment of the beginning. A gentle, titanic creature whose breath smelled of sweet clover and cold water. 4 rivers of milk flowed from her udders, providing Ymir and his kin with the strength to grow, while Audumla herself found sustenance by licking the salty, rime-covered stones of the void. Imagine the sound of her tongue against the ice, a rough, rhythmic scraping that broke the silence of Ginnungagap. On the first day she licked the stones, a clump of hair appeared. On the second day, a head, and on the third day, a whole man stood revealed. This was Buri, fair of face and great of stature, the grandfather of the gods. Now the void was no longer empty. It was a nursery of giants and proto-gods, a world of shadows and mist where the smell of salt and milk mingled with the dry heat of the south. But there was a tension here, a conflict between the chaotic, wild giants of the frost and the orderly, beautiful line of Buri. The giants were like the storm, unpredictable and vast, while the gods were like the sun, seeking to bring shape and meaning to the dark. Eventually, the grandsons of Buri were born, Odin, Vili, and Ve. They were the first true Aesir, and they looked upon the world and saw only the towering, sleeping form of Ymir and the endless, directionless mist. They felt the sting of the cold and the bite of the fire, and they knew that as long as Ymir lived, the world would remain a chaotic dream. With hearts full of purpose, they turned upon the great giant. The battle was not a clash of swords, but a shattering of the old world to make way for the new. When Ymir fell, the blood that poured from his wounds was so vast, so overwhelming, that it became a roaring, crimson sea. It was a flood of such magnitude that it drowned almost all the frost giants Ymir had fathered, washing them away into the darkness like autumn leaves in a storm. Only two escaped, Bergelmir and his wife, who climbed into a hollowed-out tree trunk and rode the tides of blood until they reached the jagged edges of the world. There, in a place they called Jotunheim, they settled among the rocks and the ice, nursing their hatred for the gods and waiting for the day they would return. Now, imagine Odin and his brothers standing over the remains of the giant. They did not let his body go to waste. With the steady, patient hands of master craftsmen, they began to carve the world from his flesh. The earth you walk upon is Ymir's skin. The soil is rich and dark because it was once his muscles. The jagged mountains that pierce the clouds are his bones, and the pebbles and stones you find in the stream are his broken teeth. When you look up at the vast blue dome of the sky, you are looking into the hollow of his skull, held up at the four corners by four tireless dwarves, north, south, east, and west. The clouds that drift lazily overhead, turning pink in the twilight, are Ymir's brains, scattered into the wind to hold the moisture of the world. And the sea, the vast, rhythmic, salt-heavy sea, is his blood, encircling the earth in a never-ending embrace. Breathe in deeply. Can you smell it? The scent of the earth after a storm is the memory of Ymir. The chill in the winter wind is the echo of his birth in Niflheim. And when you sit by a crackling fire and feel the warmth on your face, you are feeling the same primordial heat from Muspelheim that first woke him from the ice. The sun is coming now. Odin has taken the sparks from the south and set them in the sky to mark the passage of days and years. The long, silent night of the beginning is over. But remember, traveller, that under the green grass and the tall pines, the bones of the first giant still rest. We live within his body, breathing his air, walking his paths. The void is gone, but the whispers of the frost and the fire remain. Rest now. Let the rhythm of the world, Ymir's world, lull you into a deep and peaceful sleep. For the world is old, and you are safe within its ancient arms. Close your eyes and let the world you know drift away like wood smoke on a winter breeze. Imagine a throne, not made of gold or jewels, but carved from the very heart of an ancient silver-barked ash tree, a seat that looks out over the spiraling mists of the cosmos. On this throne sits Odin, the All-Father, a king whose shoulders are heavy with the burden of knowing too much and yet not nearly enough. Can you feel the stillness in his great hall? The air is cool and thin, smelling of old parchment, cold iron, and the faint, lingering scent of ozone that follows a summer storm. Outside the high, arched windows of Asgard, the wind moans through the branches of Yggdrasil, a low, hushing sound that says, "Time is flowing, and the end is coming." Odin hears it. He hears the rustle of his ravens' feathers, Hugin and Munin, as they settle on his shoulders, their black eyes reflecting the secrets they have gathered from the four corners of the world. But secrets are not the same as wisdom. Knowledge is just a collection of dry leaves, while wisdom is the deep, subterranean water that gives the tree its life. Odin is restless. He feels the prickle of a coming frost, a winter that will not end, the shadow of Ragnarök stretching long across the golden fields of his realm. To save the world, or perhaps just to understand its ending, he knows he must travel where even the gods fear to tread. He must descend from the heights of Asgard down through the swirling clouds and the jagged mountain peaks, following the deepest, darkest root of the world tree into the heart of Jotunheim, the land of the giants. Imagine the transition as he moves. The golden light of the halls fades into a bruised, purple twilight. The smell of honeyed mead is replaced by the sharp, bracing scent of crushed pine needles and the damp, heavy aroma of earth that has never seen the sun. The wind here is different. It is a biting, ancient cold that tastes of salt and stone, whistling through the ribs of the mountains like a mournful flute. Odin wraps his blue cloak tight around him, his wide-brimmed hat pulled low, his single remaining eye fixed on the path that winds down and down into the throat of the world. Eventually, the wind dies down to a whisper, and the air grows still and heavy. He has reached the base of the root, where the shadows are so thick they feel like velvet against his skin. Here, tucked away in a grotto of glistening wet stone, lies the well of Urd's sister, the Well of Mimir. Can you hear the water? It is not the joyful splash of a brook, but a slow, rhythmic pulse, glug, glug, the sound of the earth's own heartbeat echoing in the hollow of the deep. The air here is thick with the scent of wet moss and ancient minerals, a subterranean perfume that clears the mind and chills the blood. Standing guard over the dark, shimmering pool is Mimir, a being so old that the wrinkles on his face look like the rings of an oak tree. Mimir does not speak with words, but with the silence of the stones. He drinks from this well every morning using the Gjallarhorn, and in those dark waters he sees everything. The birth of the stars, the death of kings, and the silent thoughts of the smallest beetle. He is the wisest being in all the 9 realms, for he drinks from the source of memory itself. Odin approaches the edge of the water, his boots crunching softly on the silver frost that covers the ground. He looks into the well, but the surface is like polished obsidian, reflecting only his own tired face and the vast, dark branches of the tree above. He craves a single draught of that water, a single sip that would pull back the veil of the future and show him how to steer the ship of fate through the coming storm. "Mimir," the All-Father speaks, and his voice is a low rumble, like distant thunder, moving through a valley. Give me a drink from your well, I seek the wisdom that lies beneath the ripples. Mimir looks at the king of the gods, his eyes twin pools of ancient, unblinking light. He knows that wisdom is never a gift, it is always a trade. To gain something that encompasses the universe, one must be willing to lose something that defines the self. The price is high, all-father, Mimir whispers, his voice sounding like dry leaves skittering over a tombstone. The water of memory demands a sacrifice of the senses. If you wish to see with the inner eye, you must give up one of the eyes that looks upon the world. Take a moment to feel the weight of that choice. The silence in the cavern is absolute, broken only by the steady, crystalline drip of water from a stalactite. Plink, plink. Odin does not hesitate. He understands that a king who cannot see the truth is blinder than a man with no eyes at all. He reaches up with a hand that has wielded lightning and shaped the earth, and with a slow, agonizing deliberateness, he plucks his own right eye from its socket. There is no scream, only the sound of a sharp, indrawn breath and the heavy thud of the eye falling into the dark water. Imagine it sinking, drifting down through the cold, black depths until it settles on the very bottom, its pupil wide and staring, forever looking up through the water at the world it left behind. The well accepts the offering. The water ripples, turning for a brief moment to the colour of a sunset, before settling back into its deep, soulful blue. Mimir dips the great horn into the pool, the water swirling and gurgling as it fills the vessel. He hands it to Odin. The All-Father takes the horn with trembling fingers, the cold silver of the metal stinging his skin. As he drinks, the water tastes of iron, of salt, and of every tear ever shed by a living thing. It is cold, so cold it feels like a spear of ice moving down his throat. But as it settles in his breast, the world explodes. Suddenly, he is no longer in a dark cave. He is everywhere. He feels the sap rising in the furthest leaf of the world tree. He hears the dreams of the giants in Jotunheim and the whispered prayers of men in Midgard. He sees the strings of fate, the golden threads spun by the Norns, and he sees how they are tangled, how they are frayed, and how they must eventually be cut. He sees the end of Asgard, the fire of Surtur, and the cold breath of the Midgard serpent. But more than that, he sees the hope that lies beyond the end, a green world rising from the sea, a new sun climbing a new sky. He hands the horn back to Mimir, his face pale, his one remaining eye burning with a light that was not there before. He's no longer just a king, he is the master of runes, the seer of the end. He has paid a price that will mark him forever, a physical hollow that will always remind him that the knowledge is bought with pain. Odin climbs back up the route, leaving the silent grotto behind. He returns to his high throne in Asgard, but he is changed. When he looks at the golden sunset, he sees not just the beauty, but the inevitability of the dark. When he listens to the wind, he understands the language it speaks. He sits in the stillness, the crackle of the fire in his hall, providing a rhythmic backdrop to his endless thoughts. The smell of pine and wood smoke lingers around him, a reminder of the wild world he has pledged to protect. He is the one-eyed god, the wanderer, the seeker. And deep below, in the roots of the tree, his eye remains in the Well of Mimir, a permanent bridge between the god and the source of all things. So, traveller, the next time you feel a sudden flash of intuition or a deep, soul-stirring understanding of the world's hidden patterns, Remember the All-Father. Remember the price of the well. Wisdom is not found in the bright light of the sun, but in the quiet, dark places where we are willing to lose ourselves to find the truth. Breathe in the cool night air. Let the fire light your way. And sleep now, knowing that the world is held together by secrets and guarded by a king who gave everything to see. Close your eyes and breathe. Imagine you're standing at the very edge of everything you have ever known, where the solid earth of Midgard begins to crumble into the vast, starlit sea of the cosmos. Behind you, the familiar scents of home linger like a fading dream, the sharp, resinous perfume of crushed pine needles, the damp, heavy aroma of wood smoke from a distant hearth, and the cool, iron-scented breath of the mountains. But ahead of you, the air changes. It becomes thin and electric, tasting of ozone and ancient light, a coldness that does not bite, but instead makes your skin tingle with 1,000 invisible needles. Can you hear it? It is not a sound, but a vibration, a low, celestial thrum that resonates deep within your marrow. This is the hum of Bifrost, the rainbow bridge, the shimmering artery that connects the world of men to the golden heights of the gods. It is not made of stone or wood, nor is it a simple trick of light and rain. It is a river of burning colour, a bridge of living fire and frozen light, woven together by the Aesir when the world was young. As you take your first step onto its surface, the sound intensifies. A sound like 1 billion crystal bells ringing at a frequency only the soul can hear. A harmonic resonance that speaks of the order of the stars and the foundations of the 9 realms. The bridge beneath your feet feels like solid diamond, yet it is as translucent as a dragonfly's wing. Look down, and you will see the swirling mists of the great void passing far below, a dizzying expanse of purple and indigo shadows. The colours of the bridge move beneath you like liquid jewels, a deep, thundering red that carries the heat of Muspelheim, a piercing, crystalline blue that holds the secrets of the deep ice, and a shimmering, ethereal green that smells of the first sprout of spring. Breathe in the light. It is a heavy, luminous air that fills your lungs with a strange, soaring clarity. The wind here does not blow. It flows, a steady stream of celestial energy that brushes against your face like a silk veil. It carries the faint, metallic tang of the stars and the sweet, distant song of the spheres. You are suspended between the mundane and the magnificent, walking a path that is as fragile as a promise and as enduring as the world tree itself. As you walk, the hum of the bridge begins to harmonize with your own heartbeat. Every step creates a ripple of light that spreads outward across the rainbow, a gentle pulse of color that echoes into the dark. You are moving toward the highest point of the arc, where the air grows even brighter, and the silence of the void is replaced by the majestic, distant fanfare of Asgard. But wait, there is a presence here. At the end of the bridge, where the rainbow meets the golden gates of Himinbjorg, stands Heimdall. He is the white god, the silent sentry, whose ears are so keen he can hear the wool growing on a sheep's back and the grass pushing through the soil in the furthest corner of Midgard. Imagine the stillness of his vigil. He stands as unmoving as a statue carved from moonlight, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword and his great horn slung across his chest like a sleeping dragon. The air around Heimdall is thick with the scent of sun-warmed stone and polished gold. Can you feel the intensity of his gaze? His eyes are like burning stars, looking not just at you, but through you, reading the history of your spirit in the way the light of Bifrost clings to your shoulders. To him the hum of the bridge is a language. He hears the footfall of every traveller, the flutter of every raven's wing, and the subtle shift in the cosmos that signals the approach of a threat. The sound here is different now. It is the sound of absolute readiness. It is the faint, rhythmic clink of his golden armour as he breathes, the low whistle of the wind through the high towers of his hall, and the distant, echoing roar of the ocean far below the roots of the bridge. Heimdall is the barrier between peace and chaos. He is the one who ensures that the fire of the bridge does not consume the worlds, and that the frost giants do not set foot on the sacred path. Close your eyes and listen to the silence he commands. It is a heavy, protective silence, a quiet that allows the gods to sleep in their golden halls and the men to dream in their wooden huts. He is the bridge's keeper, the one who knows that Bifrost is not just a path for travel, but a tether of hope. As long as the bridge hums, the realms are connected. As long as the colours bleed into one another, the light of the gods can still reach the darkness of the earth. But even this eternal bridge has a destiny. If you listen very closely to the lowest frequencies of the hum, you can hear a faint, jagged discordance, a memory of a future where the bridge will shatter. It is the prophecy of Ragnarok, when the sons of Muspel will ride across Bifrost and the bridge of light will break under the weight of their fury. But that day is not today. Today the bridge is strong. Today the rainbow is a sanctuary. As you turn to look back toward Midgard, the bridge begins to pull you gently home. The descent is a slow, drifting glide through the spectrum of the sky. The electric hum of the heavens begins to soften, replaced once more by the familiar grounding sounds of the natural world. The crystalline bells fade into the rustle of leaves. The ozone turns back into the scent of damp moss and rain-kissed earth. You feel the weight of your body returning, the pull of gravity welcoming you back to the soil. But the hum of Bifrost stays with you, a tiny golden vibration in the center of your chest. It is a reminder that you have walked the path of the gods, that you have breathed the air of the stars, and that the bridge still stands, invisible yet vibrant, just beyond the reach of your sight. Breathe out slowly. Let the warmth of your own hearth fire find you. Hear the crackle of the logs, the steady rhythm of a world at rest. The great bridge continues its song in the silence above, a shimmering rainbow of peace that spans the gap between what is and what could be. Rest now, traveller. Let the ethereal hum lull you into a dreamless sleep, guarded by the watchman, held by the tree, and connected to the light. You are home, and all is well.